My name is Paul Rieckhoff. I'm the Chief Executive Officer and founder of a nonprofit organization called the Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America, the IAVA. I served in the Army, the U.S. Army, for about 8 years, and when I came home I became an activist and an organizer and started a nonprofit in my studio apartment in New York City. My work now is about supporting and empowering the 2.5 million American veterans and their families who've served in Iraq and Afghanistan. And the bulk of our work for the last 10 years has been providing support to this generation of folks who are coming home now with huge healthcare, policy, programmatic needs that are for the most part unmet. So we've seen an explosion of mental health issues and suicide and unemployment, family problems, and our organization has really been at the tip of the spear in identifying those problems, providing research, and then developing policies in Washington and programs around America that have now been replicated in other countries around the world that can help meet those needs. So my work is really right now focused on articulating those problems, trying to communicate to the world what we've seen in the United States for the last 10 years, and then how our organization and others have crafted 21st century solutions to those problems. Leveraging technology, leveraging crowdsourcing, leveraging all the opportunities that are now available in a 21st century nonprofit environment to make a difference and to support these people with limited resources. We actually have a relatively small budget, but we've been able to leverage a powerful organizing model, disciplined business approaches, and social media and the internet to really, what we say, punch above our weight class. We often work with organizations that are 25, 30 times our size. And also have worked in Washington with the Pentagon, with the White House, with the Department of Veterans Affairs, and others to try to serve the needs of these generations. And what we found is this is not the first time. There are about 22 million living American veterans in the United States from Vietnam, from World War II. And every generation of veterans that's come home from war has had to disrupt and transform the environment in the United States. So all the way back to George Washington, who served in the American military and then came home and said, when we assumed the soldier, we did not lay aside the citizen. There's a legacy of veterans coming home and being involved in suffrage, in the civil rights movement, in the anti-war movement, in transforming our economy. And so at its core, we believe that this generation of men and women present a leadership opportunity. They're not just a charity, they're an investment. And if we support them and we create programs that make sense, we can set them up for success and they can go on to be great business leaders, great educators, great writers, as every generation of American veterans have. And we also believe that the outcomes and lessons learned can be instructive for other communities, for veterans and civilian casualties across the globe, and also for other social entrepreneurs who are trying to serve a cause with limited resources. So we believe that the model we've created, whether it's for people with AIDS in Africa or battered women in Detroit, you can use our business lessons learned and our tactics to make a profound impact. So being at Bellagio has been extraordinary for me. My major challenge right now is really trying to organize what is a really complicated, dynamic environment. Right now we're dealing with issues as diverse as suicide, where we're facing roughly 22 suicides a day across the United States, to military sexual trauma, people who have been assaulted in the military and even in the civilian side, to issues of immigration and unemployment, childhood education, even neuroscience and brain injury. The medical side of things is rapidly developing. We're able to diagnose injuries and treat people in a way we couldn't even 5, 10 years ago. So it's a very broad spectrum of issues, and it's a very dynamic situation. Even in the few days I've been here, there are major policy changes going on back home in Washington that are going to reverberate throughout our work. So I needed the time and space to be able to step back and really organize all these complex problems and communicate them through storytelling. So a big part of my work here is telling the stories of the men and women I've met over the last 10 years who can really communicate those issues and the policy needs much more profoundly than I ever could with statistics or graphs or numbers. And even in the last few days, I've been writing about a good friend of mine named Clay Hunt, who is a Marine who served in Iraq and Afghanistan, did 3 tours, and was shot in the hand, was severely wounded, and came home and was struggling with the Department of Veterans Affairs, was struggling to find connection, and unfortunately took his own life. He was 28 years old. He was a promising young guy, But I need to tell his story. And I need to tell the story of so many other folks who we've lost and who've done well. There are some who've rebounded and gone on to do great things and are teachers and are leaders. But I need to sit here and write those stories, and to reflect in a place like Bellagio lets me connect with them and connect with myself in a way that I couldn't if I was in the mix back home in New York or in the United States in the fight. Sometimes, like an athlete on a football field, you have to step away and take a break and go have a halftime or go have an end of a game where you can just let your wounds heal a little bit and take a breath. And that's really what I'm really excited about this experience right now, is being able to take a step away from the fight for at least a couple of weeks to be able to process and clarify all this stuff that's been going around us for the last decade.